Hi there. Right. Welcome to the stream and welcome to new subscribers as well. I see I've got new subscribers. So yeah, thanks for subscribing. I try and stream regularly on a Saturday night, and I will do more streams, probably more regularly in the future. But at the moment, the streams I'm doing, I have to do a lot of research for, so I can only really do one a week. But once I've done all those, I'll have a whole library of slides, and we can do more in a week, basically. And also, I have a Facebook group, which I also stream to. The streams simultaneously go to the Facebook group. And also, I'm thinking about doing a watch party because there's the documentary that was called The Lost Tapes. It was a UK documentary. And when they showed it in the UK, they said first time ever seen, but it's actually the Hendrickson documentary footage. But they could say that because it's the first time it's ever been shown in the UK, basically. And it was shown on the 50-year anniversary of the crimes, basically. And to do a watch party, there's a site called Watch Together. And I'd like create an event, and we all basically can go to a site and watch the thing together and have a chat room that we all talk in as we're watching it. And so, yeah, I don't know if people will be interested in doing that. But I'd like create an event in the Facebook group. Sorry, my cat's on my lap. He just fell off my lap. And basically, yeah, we all just meet up at the same time. And people are saying, could we do it a bit earlier in the day? That'd work out in the afternoon for Americans, though, wouldn't it? I think. So it depends, yeah. But I know it's the Christmas holidays at the moment. But yeah, sometime over the next couple of days. And we could watch this part 2 of the Hendrickson documentary because it's actually better than the first part. It talks more about the murders. And it's got like cleaned up, restored versions of the Hendrickson footage. So it is worth watching. And yeah, so join the Facebook group if you're not in it already, and I'll create an event for that. And also, if you don't use Facebook or whatever, I will post on the community tab. And when it actually happens, I'll post the link to the room on the community tab on my channel as well. Yeah, they've restored the footage a bit, so it looks slightly better, basically. So yeah, watch the community tab on my Facebook group about that. And also, I'm planning to do a dual stream with the Poolcast channel at some point. Not sure exactly when yet, but possibly a Wednesday before Christmas, sometime before Christmas. And we'll do an hour on their channel, and then we'll come over here and do an hour on this channel. And so I'll have all of the Poolcast people on my channel at the same time. Because so far I've had Beckham on. Beckham is in the Reeve Whitson thing on my channel, and the blood evidence from it's called Drug Burn Part 2 Revisited, the video. And Paul's only been on like after shows though. But this time I'll have a stream where I'll have all of the Manson panel on my channel. And and we'll talk about the blood evidence again because I can do presentations better now. So it'll be like a Drug Burn Part 2 revisited and revamped, and with everyone talking about it basically. So that should be really good, and that will hopefully be this Wednesday. I'm not sure though, that's not written in stone yet. We haven't really talked about it, but that will be good. Excellent. Nice. Yeah, and now to get into this stream. Basically, it's really sad how these murders are overshadowed by the CI Drive crimes because they're just as brutal, and these people actually had just as interesting lives as the others. They just weren't famous people, and that's the sad thing about this. And their murders, if anything, were more brutal, as we'll get into as we discuss what happened to them. It's really, really awful what happened to them, and it was really tragic for the LaBianca family. They lost the supermarket chain that Leno LaBiancas, I think it was his father, set up when they first came, immigrated to the country. And the company lost that after Leno's death. And if Leno hadn't died, maybe he could have paid back some of what he owed. And it's because his sister apparently turned down buying his shares because she was told she'd never have any say in the company. So she turned it down. So his family lost their share of the company. The company was, and that is tragic, And it's just as bad, these murders, but they get really overshadowed. And also, when I was researching this, a lot of articles written about the stream, about the murders, are really inaccurate about what actually happened as well. It's like, and it's really hard to find the crime scene photos of the LaBianca murders because when you type it in, you just find the CLA Drive crime scene photos. And also, because of time constraints, this stream is mainly covering their actual deaths. I'm not going to be talking that much about them as people and who they were in that. I'll probably do another stream because there's so more depth to these people because there's other possible motives why they could have done this to these people in particular. We'll get into that slightly here, but this stream is mainly covering the actual crimes and their deaths. So yeah, right, I'm going to get into that now. This is the presentation that I've done. And basically this is the sequence of events that I've taken from Texas trial transcript. This is what Bugliosi said, basically. Right, so this is the sequence of events from Charles Watson's trial transcript. On the night of August the 9th, 1969, Charles Manson tells the killers from the previous night that they had been too messy the night before and he was going to show them how to do it. He takes Linda Kasabian, who's driving, Charles Watson, Tex, and Susan Atkins, and Patricia Krenwinkel and Leslie Van Houten. They go to 3267 Waverley Drive in the Los Feliz Griffith Park area. A year earlier, Manson had on several prior occasions visited the former resident in that address named Harold True. Manson got out of the car alone, walked to and entered the home next door to Harold True's former residence, being the residence of Leno and Rosemary LaBianca at 3301 Waverley Drive. When Manson returned to the car several minutes later, he called Watson, Krenwinkel and Van Houten out of the car. He told them that there were two people inside tied up, though the evidence showed only Leno actually had his hands tied up. Then he instructed them on how to murder the victims. He told them not to cause panic and fear in the victims the way they had done the night before. Watson, Krenwinkel and Van Houten then entered the LaBianca residence and they brutally murdered Leno and Rosemary LaBianca, stabbing Mr. and Mrs. LaBianca a total of 67 times. They carved the word war on Leno LaBianca's stomach. They printed the words helter skelter in Leno's blood on the refrigerator door. They also printed the word rise and death to pigs in his blood on the living room wall. Mr. Katsuyama conducted the autopsies of Mr. and Mrs. LaBianca, and they died from multiple stab wounds. Right. And this is an aerial photo showing you how close to the LaBianca's house Harold True's house is. Like Harold True's house is the white house on the left, and the LaBianca's house is on the right. Right. Sorry, just looking at the chat, seeing if anyone's got any comments so far. But that's just like the overall sequence of events that we're generally told happened, without going into detail about how they were actually murdered. And this shows the... Alright. And yeah, this is basically my diagram of the crime scene that I made from the floor plan of the house that I found. This must be a floor plan that's from like a more recent sketch of the house from when they were selling it, basically. But you can see I've shown on there where Helter Skelter was written on the fridge, assuming the fridge is in the same place, and looking at the kitchen. I think there's only one logical place you could stick the refrigerator in that kitchen, so it probably is. And that's where Helter Skelter was written. And Leno was found in the living room. I've kind of placed his body a bit too far over. He was like behind the sofa, so you wouldn't be able to see him. As soon as you walked in the room, you'd have to step in and around the sofa to see him. But that's about where Leno was lying. And Rosemary was in the bedroom. And yeah, it looks like she was trying to crawl towards the door. Very sad. And we'll probably come back to this slide a few times. But yeah, and I will show you better pictures of the crime scene as well. This is just to give an illustration. You can hardly see Rise in this picture. It's written in tiny writing above the corner of the door. But I'll show you a better picture of that in a minute. Right, and this is the injuries to Rosemary. See, she was only stabbed in the front a couple of times, once in her left breast and a couple of times around her stomach. And the actual fatal wound, if you look at her back, on her neck, like the bottom wound on her neck, like on level with her shoulder, that wound there actually severed her spine, and that was the fatal wound. And these other wounds on her back up here, if you look at the crime scene photo, I won't be showing the actual photos of their body, but you can see there's a lot of blood that came out of these wounds at the back, suggesting she was still alive when this happened to her. And yeah, so she was never stabbed in the heart as well. And you can see there was also a wound on her face as well. Someone slashed her face. And she was stabbed so hard in the back it severed her spine. And this wound was considered fatal. That's the fatal wound. And there were 22 wounds to the top of her back and 14 on her lower portion of her back. 4 wounds on the front of her body and 1 on her face. Says in the police report she had strands of brown-coloured hair in her left hand, which could have come from Leslie or Krenwinkel, couldn't it, or Patricia? And then Leno's injuries. He was found with the knife still stuck right through his neck. They found when they took the pillowcase off his head. And he had war carved into his stomach. And there was extensive ligature marks on his wrists and skin slippage. So this suggests that he wasn't tied gently, like is suggested. And also, the pillowcase, apparently, when he took the pillowcase off his head, they found the knife. So that suggests the pillowcase was put over his head after he was dead, not before. So I've seen other other articles talking about this crime, suggesting that they had pillowcases put over their head straight away. But that's not when the pillowcase went over his head. It looks like they did that after he died for some reason. And also, if you look at the crime scene photos, you can see the wounds in his body, like where war is carved, and the wounds in his stomach. There's not a lot of blood around them, suggesting that was done after he died. Right. Yeah, and I was going to stop there, and I was going to show you the... yes, these are the better photos, basically. There's another picture up here. Yes, this shows you how close Harold True's house is to the LaBianca house there. That's just the front of their house. That's them. Police outside their house. This one's a weird one, look, with all the fog in it. More close-ups of the house. And this one's interesting. You see the view of Harold True's house from the LaBianca house. The one to the right here. That's how much of the Harold True's house you can see from the LaBianca house. And that's the cord they used to tie Leno with. And a watch that was apparently taken. It was one of the only things they took was Rosemary's watch. And this is the wallet that they found that Linda supposedly hid in the her driving license. The contents of her wallet, basically, they're showing you here. Her athletic club membership. This is all on CIDrive.com in their photos, and this is the gas station. But I think was this where the newspaper stand was? What does it say? Oh, this is where Manson stopped. Sorry, and got her to leave the wallet in the woman's restroom. So he must have taken that while he was in the house, basically tying up Leno and Rosemary. And this must be the toilet cistern where they left the wallet. Yeah. And this is their front door. So I thought when I saw the picture of the word rise, I thought that was not a front door, but that is their front door. And this is the knife that was through Leno's neck. And an ashtray that was next to him. You see blood on the sofa there by the looks of it. Yeah, that's more, I think, of the ligature that was round Leno's wrists, I think. Is that? Yes. Yes, and the tags are from the retrial of Leslie Van Houten, yeah. More pictures of the living room. No pictures of his actual body in these photos, though. More pictures of the living room. That's the fork that they used to carve war in him, and that was left sticking out of his stomach. This is the bedroom where Rosemary was found. The side entrance, this is where Charlie is supposed to have walked in, I think. Yes, the side door he's meant to have used to walk in. This is the lamp cord that was around Rosemary's neck. And just more pictures of the outside of the house. Oh, yeah, and this is blood by the front door, a tiny spot of blood. And there's a close-up picture of that there. But I wonder there if that's one of the killers was bleeding, if one of the killers got cut somewhere. And that's Death to Pigs, a better picture of Death to Pigs on the wall. Rise, and you can see the word rise written better here. That's their front door, apparently. And that is, what is that? That's the cord around the neck of Leno. It was around the, yeah, and you can see the writing on the refrigerator there, Helter Skelter. That's a better picture of the writing on the fridge. They'd written Helter Skelter, so they'd misspelt it, put an A in it. It's Patricia Krenwinkel is thought to have done all the writing. Well, she admitted to it, apparently. And the coin collection, So it's a bit weird they didn't steal more since they're supposed to be desperate for money. But looking at that, coins are very, very heavy, so that would be very difficult to take with them. And yeah, more blood in the bathroom, which makes me wonder if one of the killers was hurt. A bookshelf. Yeah, all these guns as well. They never tried to take the guns. They never took any of the guns. And that's it for those pictures. Right, sorry, can't see. Yeah, they're said to be leather thongs, like that you tie around your neck. That was what it's supposed to be, like a necklace thing. Surfer dudes all have something on a leather thong around their neck, don't they? That's what that's supposed to be. Apparently, it's meant to be Charlie's leather thong, yeah. And also, yeah, there's extensive injuries to his wrist though, so it suggests he wasn't tied up gently, like they said. Yeah, I've heard that as well. I'm going to mention that later. They're supposed to have taken a shower there. Yeah, which is like, it shows that they sort of thought they wouldn't get disturbed. They seem to know they wouldn't be disturbed, which is, yeah. That's it, yeah. I find it weird that they didn't take the guns or any of the guns at all. And the entire collection of coins, like maybe they weren't coin experts, so they didn't know how to just take the most expensive ones or whatever. And I know coins are very heavy, so I can understand them not taking a whole coin collection because they just had to hitchhike. Charlie wasn't going to come back for them and pick them up. Sorry, just looking at the chat, see what people are saying. That's it so far. Yeah, that's another thing. But apparently, Alice LaBianca said she found that in a safe deposit box, so he didn't get that. But I wonder why Charlie went in there and what Charlie really said to Leno. Because Leno was killed really brutally. He was killed by a knife being stuck right through his neck. That's the only major wound. That was the fatal wound on him. That's absolutely horrible. And so he must have taken quite a while to bleed out from that. Oh my god! And all the other wounds on him seem to have been done after he was dead. It's like that seems really, really brutal, doesn't it? And there's like speculation that it's mafia related as well. I'm not really going to get that into what it says in the police report, but like there was 2 of his friends said it might be mafia related because of his gambling debts. But then another friend said he didn't think it was because if it was, he would have known about it because he knew about Leno's gambling debts. So it doesn't sound like his gambling debts were that bad that people would come and murder him, sort of thing, basically. But yeah, I have heard that Alice LaBianca said they found his black address book in a safety deposit box, so it wasn't in the house. He wasn't keeping it in his house. Yeah, and like the other thing is, I wanted to get into the actual sequence of events when Charlie left, who actually did what, because I've seen this reported like wildly inaccurately. So that was the next thing I was going to get into. Go back to this mode. That's that. There we go. Right, so what actually happened after Charlie left? Tex is left in the living room with Leno tied. Patricia and Leslie, yeah, and Rosemary's actually not tied. Her hands are never actually tied, and there was no ligature marks on her wrists or anything. Patricia and Leslie go into the bedroom with Rosemary. Rosemary thinks they're just being robbed and is offering them clothing and valuables, saying, "You can have anything you want. We'll give you anything you want. I won't call the police." Leslie says mentioning the police makes her start to feel panicky. And when Tex begins to stab Leno in the living room, he screams. And Rosemary begins to scream. And Leslie fights with her while Patricia goes to the kitchen to get the knives. Her first trial, Leslie says Rosemary picked up a lamp and started to try to hit her with it. She blocked it and got it away from her. And she wrestles her onto the bed and puts a pillowcase over her head at this point, and is trying to keep her calm. She says she can't remember if the lamp cord was tied around her neck or hands, but it was found tied around her neck. And Leno also had a pillowcase over his head, and both pillowcases from the bed were gone. It's unclear when they placed the pillowcase over Leno's head. And he also had a throw pillow from the sofa over his face. If you look at the actual crime scene photos. When Patricia returns with the knives, they both begin stabbing and cutting the lady up, or so Leslie testified at her first trial. They needed to call Tex for help. It looks like Rosemary was trying to crawl towards the door when he walked in. Her fatal wound was to the back of her neck, severing her spine. After she's dead, they continue to stab her in the back and buttocks, 22 times in her upper back and 14 times in her lower back. Leslie had said she inflicted the wounds on her lower back post-mortem. They go into the living room, where Leno is presumably already dead. his fatal wound is the knife right through his neck. Patricia Krenwinkel apparently carves the word war into his stomach and leaves the fork she used sticking out of his stomach, and is thought to have done the writing on the walls and the refrigerator. She's supposed to have admitted to it in a police report. They hung around the house for a while, eating food in the kitchen. Watermelon rinds were found in the sink, and one of them is even said to have taken a shower before they leave, and then they hitchhike back to the ranch, leaving behind many valuables they could have stolen, which just seems really weird, doesn't it, that they didn't steal more. They left loads of stuff that was really valuable. Yeah. I think she believes. Oh no, I think she lies a lot as well, because I've done a stream about Leslie, which is weirdly one of the most popular streams on my channel, and I've done clips of when I read out what she said at her first trial, and I think that she's definitely lying a lot to deny any accountability and premeditation, because obviously that's what makes it murder. She's trying to deny that they actually planned to kill the people or burgle the people or whatever. So I think she's very, very deceptive, and she was far more complicit. And I think that she probably did stab Rosemary while she was still alive. We'll get more into that. Yeah, it's weird that they didn't go in armed this time, because they apparently did go in armed to CLA Drive. And Leslie, in her trial, talks about carrying a knife. Like I say, I've done clips of me reading out her trial, and she says that she was, she used to carry knives a lot because she'd been attacked in Haight-Ashbury, and they also used it for when they were like dumpster diving, for cutting the bad bits off vegetables or whatever, that sort of thing. Yeah. I always thought that Charlie was working for someone. If they were just a hit, why bring all these kids? Yeah, it's weird, yeah, because they don't steal a lot, really. And also the way they, well, I'll get to it in a bit, because that's my point for later. Yeah. Get back to what was I going to show next? Yes, and this is an interesting thing. This is Alice LaBianca. I've put the clip of this in my Facebook group, and I'll make sure it's linked in the description below if you're watching this on playback. But just to save a copyright strike, I've just transcribed what she says. Alice LaBianca, Leno's first wife, right, recalls Leno's confrontation with Charlie. Leno wrote a letter to his first wife saying, LA is getting to be a scary place. There are a group of hippies who have taken over Griffith Park, and 2 pot parties have been broken up just next door. That's a little too close for comfort. Alice says she was told by a cop, Leno had a confrontation with Charles Manson because he was next door. He had gone over there. I don't know what they were doing, noise or something. She describes Leno as quite a tough guy who had been a military policeman in World War II with a temper, especially if the other party came back at him with some kind of challenge. So, yeah, you can see how Charles Manson definitely would have had something to say to someone that came over with a noise complaint, wouldn't he? So you can see how Charles Manson probably fell out with Leno LaBianca. And Alice LaBianca actually wrote a book. I can only find rare copies of it, and it would cost me like 30 or 40 quid to buy it, but I might buy it just to have it, because I do like rare books anyway. And she talks about their financial situation a lot more. Like I say, I'll get into that in another stream, because just to be talking about their deaths here is going to take up the time in this stream. Now, what was the last slide I'd done? That's it, yeah. Things like the points that occurred to me was these people died differently to the victims at Cielo and the way Hinman was killed, because their presumed fatal wounds were all near or to their heart, but neither of these were stabbed in the heart. So it's like they were killed in a different way. So Tex changed his MO when he killed these people. They weren't killed the same way. Well, Tex wasn't even at Hinman, was he? So yeah, right. And the way these people was killed was more sadistic, if you think about it, as they didn't die as quickly as if they had been stabbed in the heart. And how long could Rosemary have actually been alive and aware of what was happening to her after she was paralyzed, after they stabbed her in the back? Was she still conscious and aware of what was going on when they were still stabbing her in the back? We don't know how long it would have took her to bleed out. That's horrible, isn't it? And there was also a lot of valuables left behind, which is strange since the family was supposed to be desperate for money at this point. And it suggests there was more of a motive here than just to get money and instill fear in people, doesn't it? And, you know, the motive, because the motive that we're told that they did this for was to start a race war, was to instill fear in people and start a race war. And, you know, they really didn't rob very much, did they? So it doesn't seem like it was a robbery either. And that's one of the things they're supposed to be. Supposed to have been after money. And they left so much behind. And I find it weird as well that Manson never came back to pick them up. He just left them, and he left them to hitchhike back on their own after they'd done it. It all just seems very strange, doesn't it? Yeah, I think I've seen pretty much everything there is, because on the Manson blog there's there's good articles about Leno's financial situation, and a lot of that he got from Alice LaBianca's book. But he points out it's a novel as well. It's not all true, it's a novel. And it was published by PBS Entertainment, I noticed when I looked it up on Amazon. So, like, I don't know how much of it's actually true. But there's that clip of her talking and saying that she was told by a cop that Leno did have a confrontation with Charles Manson. So that much must be true. Hi, Debbie. Yeah, I've run through my report now. Well, my presentation. But yeah, I just want to get a more accurate version of events, because we'll never know exactly what happened. But it's supposed to be, but it's like there's like so many wildly inaccurate versions of what happened there. And if you just look at the evidence from the crime scene, reports that there are, and what pictures you can see, it's quite clear, you know, how things happened. And it's, yeah. Yeah, that's the point. If they got any connection to the Canadians, because the CNA Drive people certainly did, didn't they? With these murders, it seems to be more of some kind of mob or mafia connection, though, through gambling. We know Charlie played cards as well. He went to card games, didn't he? So who knows what he did and who he met. Well, he might have hired the Manson family to, you know, because also, yeah, they were living in fear as well. This wasn't the first time they'd been broken into. And in the police report, there's loads of stuff about all the crazy people that lived nearby them, because obviously before they caught the murderers, there was a long list of suspects. So I'll get into all that on another stream. I think that was the lounge. Which room did Leslie say she was staring into until Tex told her to do something? I think she says she was stood in the hallway. So yeah, if you see looking into the lounge, so like, yeah, if you'd walk out the bedroom door, there's like a opening that looks into the living room. I assume she means she was stood in that corridor there, looking into the room. I can't get an arrow to appear on the screen when I point to it, so like, yeah, you just have to. But I'm sure you can see what I mean. It's a very small diagram, isn't it? Take your comment off the screen so you can see it better. You see, like, the bedroom door, and then there's a little corridor there. She stood there, staring into the room. Patricia Krenwinkel is supposed to have gone in there. She apparently admitted to it and did the carving of war into Leno's stomach and the wounds to his stomach, and left the fork sticking out of his stomach. And they put a pillowcase over his head, but it must have been after he was dead, because they didn't find the knife until they pulled the pillowcase off his head, so they couldn't see the knife beforehand. If he had it over his head before he died, surely he'd have had the knife. You know, the knife would have had to go through the pillowcase, wouldn't it? So they must have put it on after he died. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, it could have been the Manson family breaking in, even, because they hung out more at Harold True's than is sort of suggested here. I've heard as well. There's like other accounts that say when they had their black bus, they actually had their black bus parked outside, or in the driveway to Harold True's. If we get back to the picture of Harold True's, you see, there's like a driveway going up to Harold True's, a long curved driveway. They're supposed to have had their black bus parked somewhere along there and actually stayed at Harold True's more than they like to admit now, sort of thing. And this is possibly when Leno had the confrontation with him. Got my ridiculously oversized mugs there. Mm. Well, that's it. Yeah, if it was just about money, yeah, there would have been richer looking houses. So I think it was definitely about more than that, and it wasn't just random either. There's too much connecting them to the place to call it random, isn't it? As well. Yes, this is the other thing as well. And Harold Tree wasn't only renting this place on his own. It was a few people living there. It was like must have been like a commune. And like I say in the letter to Alice, he said that there was a pot party broken up right next door. And then a cop told her that he'd had a confrontation with Charles Manson. One of the guests at one of these pot parties was Charles Manson. Hmm. Do you got any comments? I've actually read this out sooner than I thought I would. So all that's left now is to discuss people's thoughts on the thing. Yeah, because it's also been really weird that we can't find what Leslie said. And I also found out today, I didn't realise this, but Leslie had 2 additional trials because there was a hung jury at the first one. So she had a second trial, which resulted in a hung jury. So that might be the one we can't find the transcripts for. But then the last one that was successful. Yeah, so we've got to try and find all that to see what she said at that, because her testimony has changed over the years. From she didn't stab Rosemary while she was alive. She only stabbed her after she was dead. She was forced to do the wounds that were in her buttocks and her lower back after she was dead. And Texas backed that up. Texas said that he forced her to stab her after she was dead. But I don't think that she did. I think she probably did stab her while she was alive. Some of those wounds in her back and in the front of her, maybe. Mm. Yeah, that's it. But there's all stuff about Rosemary LaBianca, having a lesbian affair. There's a woman named who people thought she was having a lesbian affair with. And they say that they talk about their sex life. Everyone says that Alice LaBianca said Leno was sexually quite cold. And so there's evidence Rosemary was having affairs, and she was known as an alcoholic around town. It says in the police report as well. And Leno had a gambling problem basically, and had big gambling debts, and had been embezzling money from the supermarket. And he was actually going to be fired. He was avoiding a meeting where he was going to be fired, and he did get fired in his absence. And after he died, his family lost their share of the company as well, which was really sad for them, obviously. And yeah, like the possible mafia connections as well. This is like often speculated that Charlie was sent to do something, or he wanted the black book, but he didn't get the black book. Apparently, the black book was found afterwards. It wasn't in the house. It was in a safety deposit box. There's also in some book, someone says that they think Rosemary LaBianca was selling LSD as well, because LSD would have come as a liquid. It would just look like a glass bottle of liquid, so she could have been doing that from the dress shop that she had. And she's another one who's the wigs as well. She's that's me and Beckham have a theory that somehow it's all about the wigs really, and we're looking in the wrong place. Because Joe Sebring sold wigs because he was a hairdresser. Tex worked in a wig shop and had his own wig shop for a short while, and Rosemary would have sold wigs in a dress shop because they sold hair pieces to go with prom dresses and all that sort of shit, didn't they? When women were going to parties, they'd want extra hair to pin on. Yeah, and Leno had legitimate debts from a bunch of banks. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Young lady she had an African affair with the name Charlene. Charlie for short. Yeah. There was the one in the police report. It's something. It's a weird name. It's something like Ionine or something like that. Yeah, it sounds like a foreign name. And she was probably born in Mexico as well. I think Rosemary LaBianca was born in Mexico. Yeah. Hair till skill tear. Yeah, it was the wig wars. I think you might have had more than one. He had more than one black book, yeah, so it could have been a different black book. But it does certainly look like they killed him very swiftly, whoever killed him. Because we only have their word for it, that Charlie didn't stick the knife through his neck and they didn't walk in and find him already dead. You know what I mean? Because Rosemary LaBianca's dead. She was the only other witness, wasn't she? But we're assuming that Leno was still alive when Charlie left. So it must have been Tex that stuck the knife right through his neck. And that's what killed him. And he doesn't look like he was tied gently at all. It looks like, he was possibly, they were trying to intimidate him, trying to intimidate information out of him or whatever, and they killed him as soon as they got the information, or who knows? We can only speculate about that. But yeah, I find it really strange that they didn't take more as well, because there were a lot of valuables around. Like when I showed you the photographs of the crime scene, they're on cielodrive.com. You can look at them just in their photo archives, the LaBianca murders. Sorry, just drinking some tea. Hello, everyone. Mr. Jinx, how are you? Yeah, and there's also been rumours that Leslie was seen burning dresses at the ranch as well. So did they take more? Did they take dresses? Possibly, because they probably did change their clothes, because they must have got blood on their clothes doing all this. You know what I mean? There must have been some splatter. And like when they were kneeling down next to Rosemary's body, there must have been blood around her. They must have got blood on their clothes. Where did the bloody clothes from this crime go? So I wonder if, they did put dresses on when they were in Rosemary's bedroom. And then that's what Leslie was seen burning later at the ranch. Now, what did Dan say? Yeah, because the homicide reports for this, I think they're both on Cielo Drive. I read the second one on Cielo Drive. Oh, you talking about the name of the woman that she was having the affair with? Yeah, I could get the document out, but then there'd be a long pause while I read it up. But it was the name that the different people gave. There were several women that she hung around with. But the one woman that they thought it was it was a name that began with an I and an O. I'm sure it was a weird name. Weird sounding name, like a European sounding name. Yeah. Well, that's it. They'd have so much. That's the other thing, So it suggests they got whatever they wanted. Maybe there was something else of value there that was light and easy to carry that they took. I'm surprised they didn't take any of the weapons. That seems weird, doesn't it? If they was planning a war as well, yeah, why didn't they take the weapons? And why didn't they bring any weapons to this one as well? This is another weird thing. Like, it's another thing. Like, were they meant to kill them when they went in there? Were they planning to kill them, or did something go wrong? Because I've often thought, was this meant to be? Because the other weird thing about this is their dogs never barked, and their dogs apparently did bark at intruders. So it suggests that they came in calmly and sat and just watched, and apparently Patricia Krenwinkel played with the dogs after they killed Leno and Rosemary and all that sort of thing. It's just I wonder if this was meant to be, and because they had all these debts, I wonder if this was meant to be some kind of staged burglary for an insurance job or something like that, and they twisted it on them and just killed them or something like that, or something went wrong and they ended up killing everyone. Well, this is what I think as well. I don't think so, because Leslie and Patricia seem to have gone into the room with Rosemary, but Leno was tied up. His hands were tied behind his back, and he was quite a big bloke, so quite a fat bloke. So I think he'd have had trouble standing up without using his arms to push himself up. I don't know that for sure. He might have had very strong legs and been able to stand, but he would have been quite helpless. He'd have been sat there with his arms tied behind his back, and he doesn't look like he was beaten an awful lot or anything like that. The knife just went straight through his neck and was left in his neck. Really, really quite brutal. Yeah, that's what I think, because it seems like it was just a robbery until Leno screams when Tex stabs him, which makes Rosemary start screaming. which makes the girls freak out. And then when Rosemary starts fighting, that makes the girls freak out. Patricia goes and grabs knives and comes back, and that's when they end up killing them. So yeah, I wonder what the hell made Tex stab Leno. Basically, did Leno say something to him, or was he refusing to give him information, or who knows? Because I've often, because that's the other weird thing is, yeah, that the dogs didn't bark, and none of the neighbours heard them scream either, as well. So Rosemary can't have been screaming for very long before they killed them. They stabbed her right in the back of the neck, so presumably she wouldn't have been able to speak either. We don't know how long. I don't know if that would make her go unconscious as well. I hope she'd have gone unconscious as soon as that happened, but it's horrible. Yeah, that's it. Well, they wrote quite a lot, didn't they? And they seem to have hung around for a long time, because there's also speculation about Susan LaBianca, as she was called later, because she turned up in the 80s at one of Tex's parole hearings saying that she'd forgiven him and that they should let him go, making a character reference for him, basically. And it's speculated that Tex and Linda may have known Susan LaBianca, or known a guy that she was dating. And it's sort of speculated that maybe she had something to do with Tex targeting this house. And that was between Tex, not Charlie, and her, and maybe Tex blackmailed her with that, saying, "Oh, well, if you don't write these character references for me and do these things for me, then I'll tell them why I really killed your mum," sort of thing. That's the other speculation about this, is all about Susan LaBianca. That could be a whole stream, just talking about her showing up. And she's supposed to have tried to get really close to Patty Tate's kids. Got her kid in the same school as Patty Tate's children, and really quite creepy what they did. Yeah, that's it, because they did do fraud. Fraud was a thing. They did credit card fraud as well. And also Bernard Crowe, who they shot, he was a fraud guy. He got arrested for fraud a year after he got shot, and he did credit card fraud. So that's another link between all these victims, sort of like how they were all either selling drugs or committing fraud. Or both, basically. Yeah, a lot of the victims. Yeah, and this is the thing. Yeah, Tex and Susan Struthers, as she was called then, but she later became Susan LaBianca, ended up living in They lived in the same street. He lived across the road from her for a while. So the chances he didn't know her are pretty slim. They probably all knew each other. That's it. Yeah, he was like a friend of them. So that means that he could use their clubhouse and all that sort of stuff. So they loosely met through the scene, sort of thing. That's another thing that they don't sort of want you to know about this sort of thing. And there's not, a lot isn't said about Tex as well. Yeah, they didn't take any of the credit cards because they were all there, weren't there? There's a picture of them on clodrive.com. Well, I don't know if any of her credit cards were taken. I don't know what she had. But they appear to have just stashed the wallet there with all the credit cards in it, and hoping that someone else would start using the credit cards and they would get picked up for it or whatever. But they hid it so well, no one found it. Who would look inside the toilet system? Do you know what I mean? Yeah, all they took was her gold watch, apparently. And unless there's something else that we don't know about that they sold on. Like I say, did she really have large quantities of LSD or something? And there's also speculation that they took Rosemary out somewhere, or they took someone out somewhere before they killed them because of the way the boat was parked. It looks like they might have pulled the car out again. But a lot of people don't believe that. But yeah, there's speculation that they maybe took Rosemary somewhere before they killed her to get something. Because would she have had a safe at her shop because she had a dress shop? Or there was a safe at the supermarket that Leno worked in, possibly as well. Who knows? Yeah, the first thing was charge plates, and her athletic club membership was in there, and loads of the little stamps that must have been like, savings stamps or loyalty stamps or whatever that she was saving up to get gifts from the catalogue. Yeah, that's it. I wonder if they did take any cash. Yeah, because was there cash in her wallet? I didn't see any cash. Maybe they took the cash. And because obviously people that have shopkeepers do have like large bundles of cash. If they don't take it to the bank that night or whatever, and they just bring it home with them, she might have had a large amount of cash in her house. And there could have been more jewelry, but her family probably would have known if her jewelry was missing, wouldn't they? But there was stuff they could have taken and sold that we don't know about. But yeah, I think their family would have recognised if anything had actually been stolen, wouldn't they? I can understand them not taking the coins because coins are so heavy. But it's weird they wouldn't take the guns if they're supposed to have been planning a war. Why'd they leave all those guns? And that's it. Yeah, did they open a safe? Was there a safe in the house? I don't remember reading anything about there being a safe in the house, but there possibly was a safe at the shop. I don't remember reading anything in the reports about them checking out her shop and seeing if anything had gone from the shop. Oh, but another weird thing about this case as well, when you read about this, when they were coming home from the trip they'd been on, they heard about the Tate murders on the radio. And one of the last conversations they had was with a newspaper stand guy about the Tate murder, which is creepy, isn't it? Because, yeah, and then the same people that did the Tate murder came around their house and murdered them. And this was in the early hours of the morning as well. This was about 3 o'clock in the morning, apparently, that they showed up. And they were just set up. And Leno was reading the sports section. It looks like the sports section was being read. It says in the police report. Yeah, or did they take money from her boutique? Yeah, maybe there was money in the safe at the boutique. And also it's speculated that the boutique might have been a front for drug selling as well, so maybe there was LSD. But yeah, I've got to find and pinpoint the exact book where someone says that and see how valid it is. But yeah, it's speculated she was into all sorts of things, but it says in the police report that she was known around town to be an alcoholic, and that yeah, she was possibly having lesbian relationships, and that Leno was sexually cold. Yeah, I'm quite proud of that diagram that I found that I've made, because there doesn't seem to be one of the LaBiancas. Like I say, there hasn't been that much detailed coverage of the crimes of the LaBiancas, and a lot of it is very inaccurate as well. That's the sad thing. So this is like part of a series of videos trying to make a more detailed analysis of each of the events, the key events that the Manson family committed. And then we can look at, other events that happened in between that are harder to prove but are speculated about, all that sort of thing. Yeah, and I'm planning a stream on Christmas Eve as well. I'm going to talk about the Spahn Ranch raid on Christmas Eve, so be sure to tune into that. Yes, I've read that as well. She did have a partner in the dress shop. I don't know if they're mentioned in the police report, actually. I'll have to check that out. Because, like I say, I will do a follow-up stream to this where I talk in more detail about everything that was going on in Leno and Rosemary's lives. Sorry. Alice said she knew about Rosemary and Susan selling drugs to the cops. Yeah, I've not seen the clip of her saying that. Or if is that in her book? Because because that's another point. Because Susan got around a lot. Apparently, Susan used to hang around at Mama Cass's house. She apparently knew Janis Joplin as well. She used to hang around with Janis Joplin. All this crazy stuff. People won't believe you if you tell them this, but no, Susan Atkins used to go around Mama Cass's house and raid her fridge. Apparently, and bloody, she knew Janis Joplin. Yeah, well, they was at this point. That's still part of the save a brother thing, isn't it? Because they were trying to make it look like the killer was still at large, so Bobby wasn't the one doing the murders. So they would let Bobby go, but it didn't work, obviously, did it? Because the crimes were never investigated together. They weren't linked. They weren't even linked, even with the writing on the walls. They didn't link the crimes to the police. That's why she turned in the back book. Alice LaBianca. Yeah, and like I say, when I do the stream going into like deeper meaning of all this, I'll go into what it says in the Manson file. But the money that whatever they're supposed to have stolen from this crime is supposed to have gone to pay off the straight Satans for the bad mescaline, is what he says in the Manson file, I think. I've always wondered if Manson had a stake in LaBianca's business because he complained about his money getting gambled away. He might have had some kind of stake in card games. He mentions card games quite a lot, doesn't he? Card games at Dennis Wilson's house. I wonder if he did have some kind of stake in gambling. So just reading the chat. Yeah. Yeah, every scenario makes sense except the one that is alleged by Vincent Bugliosi. Yeah. It's like, yeah, because they say that they did, he says that they did this for what reason? Yeah, to escalate a race war starting. I can understand the writing on the wall, and that is something seems to make more sense. They would do that to try and make it look like someone else did it, like activists did it or whatever, rather than them. And also trying to make it look like whoever killed Gary Hinman was still at large so that Bobby could get freed. But it never worked. But they was wasted on drugs and they were just stupid kids, weren't they? So they went and did all this shit. Oh, that's an interesting thing. Yeah, was Charles Manson, yeah, the unidentified partner in the dress shop? Because it is a weird thing because it said there was more Manson girls than we'll ever know because a lot of them didn't live at the ranch. There was ones that lived in apartments and all that. So, like, could one of Charles Manson's other girls have been the other partner? And Abigail Folger as well. It's kind of speculated now. Abigail Folger might have even been one of them, that she knew Charlie and funded Charlie and gave Charlie money. Because it is proven that she funded a concert that Bobby played at. Abigail Folger did. So there's links between all these victims and the killers. But yeah, we'll never know, will we, really? But I can't see Charles Manson investing in a dress shop. More likely someone like Tex or one of the girls. Because they all came from middle-class families, didn't they, really? They could have got money. I think Sandy used to get quite a lot of money off her dad. Her dad sent money to her a few times that she gave to Charlie. And when she had a baby, he paid for her to give birth in the hospital, didn't he? Her dad. Oh, and I found out today Krenwinkel's dad bailed her out the first time she got arrested, or the second time she got arrested. I never knew anything about her dad before, so... Because once I've covered like the key events of the case, I'm going to go into profiles of all the individual killers. Because you could do a whole stream just about each individual one of the murderers. And then all the girls, even the ones that didn't go to prison, the ones that didn't murder anyone, are interesting and are connected to the case. And it's sort of like questionable whether more of them should have gone to prison or not, really, Because technically they were all accessories because they knew what their friends had done and didn't shop them. So it's surprising that more of them weren't nicked on accessory charges. The ones that didn't testify, like Squeaky and Sandy, because some of them got off because they testified, didn't they? But yeah, it's weird. Sandy had a trust fund as well, yeah. So yeah, it could be like Sandy, but she wasn't really into fashion, was she? Leslie seems to be the one that was more into clothes and fashion. I wonder if maybe they were involved in the dress shop. That just sounds like something girls would want to be involved in, doesn't it? And they seem to have a lot of clothes, didn't they? That they had this bus full of clothes. Yeah, that's it. And it does seem like a front as well, a front for other things. Like, Tex had a dress shop, had a wig shop for a little while because he worked at a wig shop initially and then had his own wig shop, I've read somewhere. That was in his psychiatry report. I read that. And was just like a roaming wig salesman for a while as well. He was a wig dude. Yeah. And we're coming up to an hour for this stream. So I might end this and go to an after stream now. Because we've read out the whole report. Like I say, I like to try and optimise these for people watching it on replay so it doesn't get boring so people watch the whole thing. Yeah. Wig slang in and gang bang. That's it, yeah, well, everything. He was into all sorts as well, yeah. We need to do a whole stream about him. Dennis isn't here yet tonight, is he? Hopefully he'll arrive later for the after stream. But yeah, I'd like to involve Dennis if I do a stream about Tex, because he's uncovered all sorts of information about his movements and where he was before the crimes and all this sort of stuff, and how many connections he has to drug dealing before this and how many other crimes he potentially committed. Because they want to draw your attention away from Tex. They don't want you looking at Tex. They only want you to look at Charlie. And Charlie actually had the least involvement in these killings of all of them. It's weird, this case. Right, yeah, we've been going an hour now, so I'm going to end this. But look at the channel, because I'll go live again. Give me about 5 minutes, and I'll go live to the group again if anyone's watching in the group. But yeah, part of the Pool Boy Mafia. So we can get into all this just random chat in the next stream. And like I say, I never leave the after streams up on the channel, so you can chat more wildly. Anyway, right, yeah, thanks for watching. Anyway, people who've watched on playback, and thanks for coming, everyone who's here. And yeah, subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and make sure you've turned on notifications. Like I say, yeah, I'm going to be doing a stream with the Poolcast channel, part on their channel and part on my channel, possibly this Wednesday. That's not finalised yet, though. But Christmas Eve, I'm doing the Spine Ranch raid stream. So yeah, I don't expect a huge audience for that because it's Christmas Eve, but it'll be up to watch on replay anyway for everyone. Excellent. Right, yeah, so thanks for watching. And like I say, in about 5 minutes, I'll go live again. And we'll just do an after stream. Okay, good night, everyone.